Thank you very much, Darcy. That was, yeah, you truly built me up there. I appreciate it. I hope I can live up to that. Morning, everyone. It's great to see you all. As Darcy said, I'm going to be talking about digital PR and some of the trends that I think is important to be successful in 2024 and beyond as well. So you already got my introduction, so I don't need to go through all of this. But if you're wondering where the accent is from, it's because I'm from Denmark. It got even stranger living 6 years in London, so it's a mix of all sorts of things now. But yeah, I have been working with traditional PR since 2012, and then digital PR since 2016. Lived in London, you know, the age-old story. Met an Australian, moved here. Speaking of my dear wife, if my phone is ringing and I'm looking panicked and I'm racing out the door, it's because she's due to give birth any day now. So I might rush out and have to cut this short, but we'll see how we go. As Darcy kindly mentioned, I've been in a few different roles doing digital PR. I started as an outreach specialist, which is basically, you know, doing the work, pitching journalists day in, day out. I've managed an outreach team. I've seen the digital PR from a business development perspective and head of operations, managing director. So I've seen it from quite a different few lenses. And then I've been involved in getting top tier coverage around the world, like The Guardian, Daily Mail, LA Times, Sydney Morning Herald, these type of publications. And I was saying to James, I think my talk should be about trends, and he said, yeah, that's great. And I thought to myself, actually, I don't like these trends. Sort of stories or blogs, because who am I to, you know, say what's going to happen in the future? I'm not no oracle who can predict anything. But what I have done is this. I have, as you can see, worked in the industry for a long time. I've done some really good stuff. I've certainly also done some terrible stuff. And you know, you do really learn from that. So what I wanted to also do today is look a bit on the past, maybe not look at anything at all. But I wanted to look at the past so we can sort of try and predict the future. So with that in mind, today I'm going to be covering 3 different trends, which you will hopefully see here. There we go. So we're going to quickly do a little bit of what I've called the evolution of digital PR. And then I have these 3 main trends that I think is important going forward. And that is relevancy over chasing a viral story. It's tailoring the content for its purpose rather than a one-size-fits-all. And then the importance of personalization rather than the number of people that you try to pitch the story to. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to refer back to our client, Easy License, which is an online platform that helps learner drivers find, compare, and book driving instructors. We recently launched this digital PR campaign for them, which we're super proud of. We called it Pass Rate Paradise. And basically, we're using Easy License internal data to analyze 30,000 plus driving test results. We wanted to discover pass rates on a state, regional, and city level. As you can see, this is how it looks. And it went live earlier this month. I'm also going to refer back to a health client based in Australia who branched out to the UK, who we helped, but more on that later on. I think, though, it's important. I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room that have an idea of what digital PR is, but I think that it's good to just define it because there's certainly a lot of different definitions out there. So here is ours, at least. So digital PR, while it might sound like it's not SEO, it's definitely SEO. It's an SEO strategy. We're just utilizing more traditional PR tactics and supported by 2 main pillars, which is content and outreach. Why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this for the same reason we do anything from SEO perspective. We're doing this to increase our rankings, ultimately. We want to increase our authority and visibility along the way. And what are we doing? Well, we're doing, as I said, we're using PR tactics to generate these authoritative and relevant links from credible sites. And how are we doing that? Well, we're utilizing some sort of content asset that is original and newsworthy, and we then outreach that to these authoritative sites. And sometimes when you're defining something, it's also good to define what it's not. And I'm not sure if you saw this post that James mentioned. This was a current client of ours who shared their previous agency's digital PR report with us. And I'm not slacking these links. I'm just telling you, if the link is called Sippy Cup Mom, it's not digital PR. I'm sure it's a great site. I'm sure it's doing its purpose. But it is probably more traditional link building than digital PR. That's all I'll say about that blog. And why do we do digital PR? Well, we're going off the understanding that links from highly authoritative sites will increase the authority of your site, which over time will translate into stronger organic rankings, and stronger organic rankings should, over time, translate into an increase in revenue. So that's sort of the basis of what we're doing. Our friend, John Mueller at Google, depending how you look at that. So this is what they're saying about digital PR. You know, there could be millions and millions of links coming into any given page, and you know, how are Google looking at these pages? And he's saying, you know, there could be one really good link from one website out there that is for us a really important sign that we should treat this website as something relevant because it has that one link. And I think it's interesting, the emphasis of one link. And then he goes on to say it could be from a big news site's homepage, for example. So this basically green lights the strategy of digital PR. This is what we're trying to do. And I'm not saying you should quit or stop or pause your traditional link building tactics. I think they can work in conjunction. I think it's fair to say that we're targeting different sites and different links with digital PR, which can be, if not impossible, then at least really, really difficult to get with sort of more traditional link building tactics. Certainly, the halo effects of digital PR can be difficult as well to get with your more traditional traditional link building efforts. So one of the best things about digital PR is that it also increases your brand awareness and credibility. Imagine, you know, getting a link on a top-tier site. That's going to increase your brand awareness and credibility. Usually these sites will also share these stories on their own social networks. So there's a chance that the story can sort of take on a second life there. It's a great way to be introduced to a new audience or insert your brand into a new conversation or a conversation you want to be part of. So these are certainly some of the benefits of digital PR. And also there's discussions in the industry, you know, brand mentions being the future of backlinks. Now mind you, Andrew Holland, who wrote this article, is he's working for a digital PR agency in the UK, so you know he would say that. But still, Google also testing mentioned in search snippets, so you know there are certainly some signals that are saying that brand mention is going to be worth more in the future. Sort of generally, when we talk about digital PR, we look at content from three different perspectives. So it could either be reactive content where it's more expert-led, expert commentary-led. You are the expert is the asset. And then there's sort of more content-led strategies where you're either using internal data, blog post data, surveys, whatever that is. We'll get back to that in a second. We'll also touch on this a lot more later on, but when you're trying to come up with content for digital PR, you're really trying to hit that sweet spot between what you care about as a brand and what the top tier news sites care about. As I said, we'll go back to that. So as I've said, I've worked in this industry for a long time, and I think it's just good to just have a very brief look back in history, so we can try and understand how we think the future looks. So when I started back doing digital PR in London in 2016, bigger was better. We created these massive hero campaigns. They had multiple angles and stories in them. We were building interactive microsites It took 2-3 months to build these and create these campaigns. And we were chasing these viral hits. We wanted like 500 plus links. And in the outreach team where I started, we were measured on how many people we were outreaching to. So it was like, how many journalists are you contacting every week and month? And that worked for a little while until it didn't work anymore. And then sort of fast forward to 2018, we were still chasing this big hit, but more often than not, it became a big miss. And if you're trying to do something for 3 months and you get no results, you're going to have some explanation to do with your client. To make matters worse, at least for us as the agency I work for, COVID hit, and any marketeer in here would have either heard that or worked through that. Pretty chaotic, everything that we thought was working before wasn't working. So some of the agencies doing digital PR kept it business as usual. We did that at my old agency. That was certainly a mistake. Some pivoted to do more reactive stuff, a bit more agile. That became the norm. And anyone who pivoted to that earlier sort of came out a lot better than the rest. So everything became more faster, more agile. It became a little bit harder to get linked because it was sort of assetless. There's no tangible content to link back to. And then 2022-ish came around, which I call sort of the Wild West, especially in the UK. There's so much competitive saturation in the digital PR space. It became a race against the bottom in terms of price points. A few cowboy agencies, as I call them, entered the space, and what they did was, I want to link above anything else, relevancy, anything that didn't really matter. And also there were mass redundancies across the UK publisher market. So basically you had more PRs pitching less relevant stories to less journalists, which is not a great look for anyone, didn't really create much result. So we've now come to this point where we figured out that there shouldn't be a set format. It shouldn't be necessarily only do bigger campaigns or only do the reactive stuff. It's a bit more of a mix and adapt type situation. Right, so with that little history lesson, we'll go straight into trend number 1, which is focus on relevancy over this viral hit. So these are the old slides. I don't know if... all right, anyway, we'll go from here. So as I said to you before, in terms of content, what you really want to do is try and hit this sweet spot. So if we go back to the example of Easy License, what they really care about is supporting the learner drivers. And on the other hand, what top-tier sites really care about is this a news story? And if it is it relevant to our audience and readers? And that's what you're trying to hit. So when we were doing the ideation, we tried to come up with this idea of, this was my suggestion. I was like, what if we looked into which car brand has been involved in most accidents? I thought that could be really cool. But it didn't really hit the sweet spot for the client. This isn't really supporting learner drivers. I was more looking and thinking about what could I imagine people would be discussing on social media. Tesla drivers turned out to be the worst or involved in most accidents, and anyone who has a mate who drives a Tesla would say, "Yeah, I told you so. You're bad drivers." So that was sort of what I was thinking, but it wasn't really the right thing for the client. On the other hand, the client has a lot, and they want to be the author of lots of guides and to road regulations for P&L plate drivers. But again, that's not really news, and it's not really relevant. So we landed on this driving test pass rates with national and local angles, because then that makes it relevant to local papers as well. And as you can see here, we were able to get this on the Herald Sun. It's a shame that this is not the updated deck, because there's also coverage from 7 News, which we got yesterday, and from Perth Now. So we were able to get coverage for this, so and specifically the the regional stories were the ones that really went well. It also went across socials. And I think this just goes to show that if you focus on that relevancy, you're going to get the links, you're going to get the social shares. This actually went on print in Perth now as well, which was in here, but now has disappeared. So questions to ask yourself about relevancy. Do I have authority to add to this conversation? Should I have an opinion on this topic? Do I want to be part of this conversation? And is it useful to my target audience that I'm part of this conversation? And I think that's something to keep in mind. And this is a good example of someone who, didn't necessarily need to be part of this conversation. I don't think that Ring door cameras need to come up with the Valentine's Day offer. And this guy went off on Twitter, and I just thought that was quite funny. So again, just do I need to be part of this? Does this serve anyone any good that I'm part of this conversation? This is probably an example of no. Right, so the second trend I want to take you through is tailor the content for its purpose rather than one size fits all. So I showed you this before, the 3 types of content. You can also look at it as either doing asset-less or content-led. So this really depends on what you want to do. Remember, there's no one size fits all. It's about what you're trying to achieve. If you want your links faster, you want there to be quick results, you want this to be relatively cheap, then maybe you go asset less. If you want the opportunity for your content to rank, if you want to accrue links over time, if you want to have a higher rate of success, generally speaking, and you're okay with it being a bit longer to execute and maybe a bit more expensive, then content-led is what you probably should be doing. We get the question a lot, why don't you use the content we already created on our blog? And the answer is really on the screen. It's because we want to tailor the content for its purpose. I think it's really important to look at these. What's the objective of your content? Because the content that's already on your blog, the objective of that is to answer search intent. And the objective of the content we're creating for digital PR is to be an asset to gain top-tier links. So there's a different objective here, which means we probably need different strategies. There might be examples where you can get top-tier links with the content you have online, and that's great. But more often than not, it's probably not the case. So what do you do if you don't have internal data or budget which allows you to create any of these sort of bespoke campaigns? Well, that's okay. We let the content decide the format. So I mentioned this health client before, and they came to us. They were branching out into the UK, and they wanted to do some digital PR. They didn't really have any data. They didn't really have much content. But in a discovery call with them, we figured out that they have an internal expert, a nurse. So we thought, let's give that a go. So we asked her a bunch of questions. They had some key topics and some dates they wanted to try and utilize as well. So basically, we ended up creating this Q&A about a whole type of different topics with this nurse, and then we pitched that out to journalists. And we got coverage and a link from the Daily Mail, so that worked perfectly well. I don't have any content to show you because it was literally just the Q&A that we made up, and we pitched that out to the journalists. So you can get coverage with content-led digital PR, but you can certainly also get top-tier coverage just by having the right angles and the right stories. And as I said before, you let the content decide. So this campaign, again, coming back to Easy License, talking about pass rates, talking about different cities, different states, lots of data, lots of numbers, lots of geographical points. So we thought we really need to have this this needs to be content-led. We need to have the visuals here, so this is how it looks. And obviously, I think you can all agree, this enhances the story. So for this campaign particularly, we really thought it was important to go that extra step to use that. And actually, when we got the coverage in the Herald Sun, they also used our graphics. And again, this is just another reason for them to have to source you. And this just added a couple of more brand mentions into the piece, which obviously the client was super happy with. So when it comes to content, I think these are some of the questions you should ask yourself is, would I like my content to rank or use it for retargeting? Would I like my content to live on my site? When you know what type of campaign idea you want to work with, ask yourself, what do I need to get the main point across? Do I need any visuals? And what's my time frame and budget? These questions will sort of help you figure out if you should go asset-less or content-led. Third trend is personalization. And as I said, when I worked at the agency in the UK, we were measured on how many journalists we outreached every week, which I think is a bit of an outdated approach. We wanted to do some internal investigations, so one of the guys in the office has a mate working for the Sydney Morning Herald. So we figured, hey, let's just ask how many pitches do you get a day? And as you can see here, despite being ruthlessly in unsubscribing for these, you still might get about 30 pitches a day from PRs. That's annoying, let's agree. But why is personalization important? Well, this study by Mockrack, they surveyed 2,000 journalists last year, and they're saying, why do you immediately reject otherwise relevant pitches? And they're saying it's because of lack of personalization. Now, what does personalization mean? It's not, hey, how was your weekend? Or I hope you're having a good week. Or I've been following your stories and I really admire how you're writing or something like that. Unless that's true, then by all means. But I don't think that probably is in most cases. You obviously can say, hey, I saw you wrote this story. This is related to the one I'm pitching you, so I thought you might find that interesting. But in general, yeah, I also had this guy reaching out to me, his sort of lead was mutual connections. I'm not sure that's the personalization I need to know. And he was saying he was a Young Australian of the Year nomination. Not sure if that's relevant to me, being not Australian. But anyway, so I think this was probably not the greatest use of personalization. So what are we looking at? There's sort of two different ways that I distinguish between. It's either you personalize for the journalist or you personalize for the story. So if we're looking at the first one, so with the Easy License campaign, obviously we had all these geographical points. We create a single angle for each of these. So we have, this was just what could be fitted on the page. There's actually more. So we have an angle for Geelong. We have an angle for Sydney. We have an angle for VA or Perth. And we send that to those journalists located in that area. And then obviously, if I'm reaching out to someone on the Gold Coast, I'm going to take the Sydney stuff out. It's not relevant to them. I'm only going to send what's relevant. So that's personalization. Coming back to this example of the health client we were working with, I originally ran out with this headline, which is sort of factually correct. I was sort of keen to get the word expert in there, and I thought that would be great. And we sent this out to like 50 journalists, and we didn't really get much response. But then we started to look into the target publication that we were going for, and this is the front page of the Daily Mail. And as you can see, there's 3 stories just here on the front page saying, I'm a professional cleaner. I'm going on 50 first dates. I'm a personalized trainer. So this sort of content seems to work. So we figured, let's give it a go. So we changed the subject line to this. I'm a continent nurse, and here's the lesser known symptoms for cervical cancer. And then again, Q&A, blah, blah. This was the only thing that changed. Send this out to a handful of journalists. And then as soon as the slides are back up, you can see how it's not one-to-one, but the headline certainly is inspired by our subject line. And again, this is personalization. You personalize the headline and how you're writing to the journalist that you're writing in order to try and give yourself a better chance. There's also then personalization of the story. So again, coming back to this one, we wanted to make just the story in general more personal. So we asked, can we include a picture of the nurse to sort of put a face to a name? And as you can see, takes up a lot of the article space here, so that certainly helped land coverage. We then used this similar format, IMA ... to create some other stories, and this was some of the other topics that were in this Q&A that we did. And following that format, sending the picture of the nurse as well, we got links on Mirror and Daily Star as well. So sort of personalizing for the publication is really important. Coming back to the Easy License example, again, we went out with sort of this headline here. I think we sent this out to about 150 journalists, sort of this sort of format. Didn't really work, so we figured, all right, for this follow-up, let's try and get some expertise. This is not really personal. There's not really, it's missing some personalization. So let's try and get a driving instructor to comment on the findings. And we figured, why not just try and use the same format as before? It did work for the other story, so let's try this again. And this was actually the email that got the coverage on Herald Sun. Now, they didn't go with the I'm a driving instructor headline, but they certainly used the quote, and the quote made up a big part of that story. So adding that personalization into was really crucial to get this coverage. So something to ask yourself in terms of personalization. What are the journalists writing about? How are they writing? Mimic their tone of voice. When are they writing? Are you reaching out to someone who's only writing one story a month? At least that helps you set your own expectations. And then, can I make this pitch more personal? Can I add a picture? Can I add a quote? Whatever you can do to personalize your story is going to be super important. So that's basically what I had to share with you. So if you are going to do digital PR in 2024 or beyond, focus on relevancy over chasing this viral hit. Focus on tailor the content for its purpose. Look at the content, let that decide how you're doing this. And then the more personalization you can add in, the better. And hopefully you will get less Sippy Cup Mom links and a few more of these juicy 61 plus DR links that we were able to get for Easy License. That's what I have for everyone. I think I've used all my time, so come grab me if you have any questions, and enjoy the rest of the day.